The fans are booing on that, Pat, but that's a tough one for Johnny Johnson. He's coming up. Now, when you get on that sideline, you have to unload on Peyton because you know he's going to unload on you. And that's what Johnson's saying. I just can't stand there and let him unload on me. Now, he's going to unload with that right arm. So Johnson has to get his load ready to go load to load. And the fans boo when you do that.
Tough to stop it.
But you got to. If a guy's loading up on you, you got to load up on him or you go backwards.
And you better bring a bigger load.
Then you change occupation.
Play on the radio.
Oh, and he took a hit to the head on the slide. Oh. Where's the flag? Where's the flag? A hit to the head on the slide is a flag. Where's the commissioner? Where's White Waters? That is absolutely embarrassing. That has to be a flag. I cannot believe that. He is defenseless. He's defenseless. Don't you understand? Do a flag. Third down. I don't really care if you people look at me in the press box. You know what? I don't care. That's a flag. And I'll fight any one of you if you want it. That's the mood I'm in at the moment. Apparently the team is not the only one melting down here.
And it was play-by-play on the radio. Play-by-play on the radio. Play-by-play, I saw it on the radio.
Heads to the end zone. Touchdown.
And it was play-by-play on the radio. Play-by-play on the radio. Play-by-play, I saw it on the radio.
The Black Cat is at the other end of the field. He's at the 8. Now he is sitting and looking. And the Cat runs into the end zone. That is a touchdown. And the Cat is elusive.
The men at the mic, they make it come alive. Oh, what a catch.
Caught for another touchdown.
Turn it up louder. The pictures are coming in fine. And it's play-by-play on the radio. Play-by-play on the radio. Play-by-play. Yesterday and today.
There he goes!
Touchdown!
Oh, wait a minute. He's saying it's an incomplete pass. There's no way that's incomplete.
Absolutely not.
That's a backwards pass by 5 yards.
Absolutely not.
There's no way that's an incomplete pass. That's a backwards pass. It's a live ball. That's a touchdown taken off the board against the Green Wave. Nuts and bolts. We got screwed. Third down.
Play-by-play, I saw it on the radio.
I like to refer to this whole thing from start to finish as a real Mickey Mouse operation. But that'd be an insult to Mickey Mouse.
My Team Media is your home for your team.
Welcome in, football friends, family, and fans. It's the My Team Media Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins overtime show as we put a wrap and a bow on the Redskins season. They finished 5-2, losing in the Section 5 Class D semifinal game to the Avon Braves 16-8. Over the next hour or so, we will bring you Tanner's takeaways from the semifinal game. We'll chat with Coach Steve Donlon one last time. We caught up with him about a week after the semifinal game, after the Section 5 Class D title game took place. We'll give a salute to all the seniors on the Redskins team as we will talk to Coach Donlon about each individual senior on this year's club. We'll bring you the top 5 plays of the season, and Tanner Saunders will bring you his end-of-season awards. We don't really have a great name for the awards right now. The Sandies, the T-Sauce Awards. Let's go with, since we're a digital media company, let's go with the digisports awards. Of course, there's no trophy or prize. It's pride, not prize, for these end of season awards, but we'll dole those out as well. Let's bring in Tanner Saunders, and unfortunately for the Redskins, they had their worst day in the air against the Braves, only 41 yards and an interception. That's really been their bread and butter this year and probably over the last 2 or 3 years is in the air with their great quarterback and their two weapons on the outside. They averaged 135 yards in the air going into the semifinal game. That Braves defense was a very good defense, and the Redskins were able to run the ball some in that game as well. But with that all said and done, Tanner, they did have the ball at the end of the game with a chance to drive down and tie the game, did the Redskins. Even when they didn't have their best offensive performance, they really showed a lot of fortitude and gut check and resilience in that semifinal game.
Well, it was a tough loss, certainly not what these seniors would have hoped for. And I thought, the opportunities were there, but as Coach Donlon said after the Oakfield, Alabama game, they just didn't materialize. There were plays there to be made. I mean, and the defense was bend but don't break, their usual selves, and they made some pretty crucial stops there late in the third quarter, early in the fourth. They had their backs against the wall, and both those drives ended in blocked field goals. So the opportunities were there. They just didn't materialize, and the offense couldn't capitalize. They gave it a good fight and unfortunately fell short, and there were opportunities also earlier in the game. There was a big fourth down conversion in Avon territory that they couldn't come up with. Just plays like that. And, the fumble at the beginning of the second half, that might not seem like much, but they were putting a good drive together. So just things like that. The plays, the big plays, the crucial plays just did not swing in their favor in that game.
With the Braves playing pass defense, knowing that the Redskins are so good in the passing game, CG was able to run the ball pretty well, 34 carries for 163 yards. That's 4.7 yards per carry. Chase Weeks had over 100 yards on the ground. They had some really good runs, and then they had some runs that they lost yards on. They just couldn't get a real consistent run game going against the Braves.
Yep, they got it going early in the game. On the first drive, they relied almost exclusively on the run, but then as the game wound on, they tried throwing it a little bit more, but the averages do look good, and they were able to run the ball at times, but just couldn't really sustain it throughout the game. And then obviously the biggest play of the game, the last fourth down that they were unable to convert, that was on the ground. So, they showed flashes of being able to run the football, but just wasn't enough in the end for them.
Well, the Red Wall once again came to play. They had been rock solid all year long. They really kept the Redskins in the game. The Redskins averaged going into the game in the upper 20s, only getting one score in this game. But as we said, they had the ball at the end of the game with an opportunity to tie the game and to go to overtime, and that was really because of their defense. Their defense played really well. They had one fumble recovery by Jacob Mullen. They had one sack in the game. Hunter McCaffrey and Jacob Evingham led the Redskins with 8 tackles each. John Cox and Chase Weeks each had 6 tackles. For some of the game, the Braves were winning the field position battle, but Coach Donlon's defense did a great job, only giving up 2 touchdowns. Of course, that safety got the Braves to the 16-point mark, but you could say if the Redskins defense didn't bring their A game, the final score could have easily been 34-8 in that game.
Absolutely, but they did a good job. They did allow some chunk plays. I mean, Thomas Welsh is a pretty darn good running back, and that Avon offense is a good running offense. And, Bryce did a good job for the most part, Rich Bryce, the sophomore, of taking care of the football, not really putting it in harm's way. But as you said, they put a couple big stops together late in the third, early in the fourth quarter, where Avon really could have blown that thing wide open, but for whatever reason, whether it was they backed up because of penalty yardage or the defense just stood tall, they couldn't convert. They blocked 2 field goals, so they played their hats off, and there was opportunities there. They gave the offense a chance, and they just couldn't convert in the end. But they did have a very good game, and I think you're right. If they don't make those 2 stops, then that game doesn't look as close as it ended up being on the scoreboard.
So the Braves moved on to the Section 5 Class D title game. A lot of people thought it would be a rematch of the final game of the regular season, as OAE had traveled to Avon and really put a impressive performance together, beating the Braves, who were undefeated going in to the final regular season game. But Alexander, the 4th seed, comes up and bites the number 1 seed, the OAE Aggies. So Avon, is the 2 seed, hosted the Section 5 Class D title game, victorious 42-7, and we really saw Avon be able to run on the Redskins. They didn't throw a ton. They were effective when they threw, but didn't throw a lot against the Redskins. But they beat Alexander 42-7. In the air, they were 12 for 17 for 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the quarterback had another touchdown on the ground. Were you surprised when you heard how the Class D title game went, Tanner?
Yeah, I was quite surprised because, as I said, Rich Bryce is a sophomore quarterback. He was thrown to the Wolves due to injury against perhaps the best team in Section 5 Class D, or maybe the second best, Oakfield, Alabama, Elba. And, he struggled through 4 picks, but he was able to maintain his composure. He did enough to get the win against CG, but then for him to go out there and throw for nearly 300 yards and have those touchdowns, I mean, that's incredible. I was surprised. You would think that Welsh would be the one doing the heavy lifting, but, it's cool to see the sophomore put the team on his back and, perform like that in the biggest game. So I was slightly surprised because I wouldn't have expected them to throw as much as they did. But at the end of the day, they're a good team. They have a good running attack, and their quarterback stepped up big time when they needed it most.
Well, another great season for the Redskins. They finished 5-2. They make it to the semifinals for the second time in the last 3 years, and there was plays to be had. There was opportunities there for them to make it to the program's second sectional championship game. But as Coach Jim Mora says, you don't get a lot of wins when you have to say coulda, woulda, shoulda after a game. So Avon goes on and beats Alexander in the title game fairly convincingly, 42-7. So there's 2 schools of thought if you're a Redskins player or fan or coach. You say, man, we gave Avon everything they could handle, then Avon wins easily. So maybe we win easily in the title game, but we've certainly learned that just because Team A beats Team B and Team B beats Team C, there's no guarantee that Team A is going to beat Team C. But you can say, well, we did lose to the eventual champs. On the other hand, some people, when they lose to a team, they don't want that team to win the next game. They want to see that team lose. Maybe the even more heartbreaking part for the Redskins, and might stick in their craw even more, because Alexander, the 4 seed, knocked off the number 1 seed, OAE, the Aggies. If Canisteo-Greenwood had beat Avon, the 3 seed beating the 2 seed, the Redskins, because of the pandemic and championship games not being played at a neutral site and the higher seed hosting the games, the Redskins, Tanner, could have hosted the Section 5 Class D title game at Maple City Park.
Yeah, but I'm sure these players for CG are beside themselves for losing the game to begin with. But then, getting on the bus, getting home, and then finding out that you would have hosted the game if you had taken care of business, it's just rubbing salt in the wound at that point. I mean, I would have been sick to my stomach if I was a CG player. I mean, just gut-wrenching, but, it is what it is. You got to take care of business before you worry about any of that stuff, and they were just unable to do so.
All right, Tanner, why don't you go ahead and give us your Section 5 Class D semifinal Tanner's takeaway?
Well, I think I've already touched on that a little bit here, but to go over it again, the opportunities were there. There were plays to be made, and they just couldn't capitalize. I was impressed with the defense, especially late in the third, early in the fourth quarter, when they had their backs up against the wall. There was already some plays that hadn't gone their way, with the safety and a couple turnovers with the interception and then Rocky's fumble at the beginning of the second half. So, they had their backs against the wall for the majority of the game. So I was impressed with the wherewithal to be able to, maintain composure and force them to have to settle for field goals, which were blocked. So hats off to the defense. They did a great job. It was a little bend but don't break. They gave up some chunk plays, particularly on the ground. But when push came to shove and when the chips were on the table, they made the plays. And just unfortunately for the offense, they couldn't materialize. There were some nice moments on offense as well. The Andrew to Rocky touchdown was a beautifully drawn up play. But in the end, they just didn't make enough plays to be able to win the game.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get Tanner's thoughts on one player that surprised him and really overachieved this year, and one player that he expected to have a good year, and they even surpassed that. We have a lot more to come as well. We have the Coach's Corner show with Coach Steve Donlon. We'll do our salute to the seniors and go over each senior and their stats. We'll have our top 5 plays of the season and our end-of-season awards. It's the Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins Overtime Show on the My Team Media Network.
It's been a trying year for parents. They've been confronted with countless challenges and have always risen to the occasion. If it isn't too much to ask, the more than 8 million high school student athletes across the country have one last request.
Please, set an example.
Disorderly fan conduct at high school athletic events is on the rise. It increasingly involves parents. There's no question that parents are passionate. There's no question they care about their children. But at a time when we're all wound a little more tightly than usual, it's worth remembering this about high school sports. Always be a good example. Stop unruly fan behavior before it starts.
This message presented by the NFHS and the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Hello, this is Les York from New York Agency, 15 Church Street, Cornell, New York. Our office is part of the families of American National Insurance Company, including Farm Family Insurance Company and American National Life Insurance Company of New York. We specialize in many aspects of insurance needs, not just farms. Here at the York Agency, we can help you with auto, commercial, workman's compensation, along with your life insurance needs. Hey, give us a call at 607-324-4108 and give us a chance to quote your insurance, or just stop in at 15 Church Street, Cornell, New York, and see what we can do to help your business or personal needs for you and your family.
This broadcast on the My Team Media Network is brought to you by these awesome sponsors.
The Hartman Agency in Canisteo. They offer a wide variety of insurance policies, both personal and commercial, ensuring you get the coverage you need at an affordable price. The Rexville Country Store, they have your everyday grocery and food needs located at 1364 State Route 248 in Rexville, open Wednesday through Sunday. Colebrook Auto at 3656 State Route 414 in Corning for high-quality, hand-picked pre-owned vehicles, online at colebrookauto.com and on Facebook. One location, one person, zero pressure. A true deal is what they will give you. The Canisteo-Greenwood Athletic Booster Club, they are committed to supporting, encouraging, and enhancing the athletic experience of all Canisteo-Greenwood student athletes and encourage you, the fans, to be loud, proud, and positive. And the York Agency, specializing in auto, commercial, workman's compensation, and life insurance. Call Lester at 607-324-4108 or stop by the office at 15 Church Street in Hornell to get a quote today.
All right, Tanner, let's start out with the player that you had high expectations for coming into this season. They not only lived up to those expectations, but they exceeded those expectations and what you thought they would do this year.
So a player that I expected highly of, and they met that expectation, I would say probably Rocky Santiago for that one. I mean, I saw what he did last year, and I was impressed with him, his ability to move and, make plays inside and out of the pocket. But this year, he just took that to a whole nother level. I thought he was incredible. I mean, we saw with the running ability, being able to extend plays with his legs, be able to throw on the run, and he has quite the touch on some of those deep balls. I mean, he throws a very nice deep ball. He's very accurate, doesn't miss too many passes very often. So Rocky Santiago, I had high expectations coming into the year for him, and, he was all that and then some for me.
No doubt about it. And, Rocky is unfortunately a victim of circumstances, or a victim of location, because Canisteo-Greenwood is pretty much the most southern football team in Section 5. He doesn't get a lot of coverage. He would get more coverage if he was playing at Bath or Hornell or Dansville, or certainly if he was playing up in Avon or East Rochester or one of the suburbs of Rochester. He'd get covered way more by picking Splinters and the DNC and WHAM and the other TV stations up in Rochester.
If he keeps playing like this, then everyone will figure out who he is. You know, he might have gotten slept on through high school, but if he keeps this going up at Alfred University, then there will be a lot more people that know who Rocky Santiago is. Maybe he's not getting the exposure now because he's at a small school, but, you know, by all accounts, he's a great leader. He's a hard worker. So if he keeps it up, there will be nothing but great things ahead of him.
All right, give me the player that surprised you with how well they played this year.
I was surprised by, I would say I'd give it to two players here. I'll go one offense, one defense. The one on offense was probably Hunter McCaffrey. He was called up from JV last year to play quarterback due to injury. Rocky dealt with some injuries last year, so McCaffrey came in and played quarterback. But this year he made the transition over to wide receiver, and he was spectacular. Now, he had his moments where he dropped some passes, but, I mean, him next to Andrew Morling, that big playability, he averaged nearly 20 yards per catch. He led the team in touchdown reception, so I was very impressed with him, moving from quarterback last year to wide receiver this year and having pretty much such a seamless transition. I was really impressed with that. And Ryder Slayton, I was impressed with defensively. You know, Nate Dogg, shout out to him. Nate Button didn't play this year, and he was their leading edge rusher from a season ago. He had 6 sacks last season, and someone had to step in and fill that void, and they kind of did it by committee. But the leader of that group was Ryder Slayton. He led the team in sacks. He had a couple fumble recoveries and a defensive touchdown as well. So I was very impressed with him on the defensive side of the ball.
All right, as we go to break, Tanner, let me ask you this. I'm going to pose this question to Coach Steve Donlon. This is a way too far in advance preview of what the Redskins will look like next year. You're losing your entire offensive backfield. Cox, your fullback. Weeks, your tailback. Santiago, your quarterback. Morling, your top wide receiver. Now, Cole Ferris was the backup to Rocky this year. He has played quarterback through the ranks. Hunter McCaffrey was the JV quarterback in 2019, came up to the varsity at the end of the year. Do you move McCaffrey to the quarterback position, or do you leave him on the outside because he'll be your top returning wide receiver and have Cole Ferris under center?
I think it depends what the philosophy of the team is. If you're going to be a team that wants to run the ball, 40 times a game, be like, one of these Geneseo Mount Morrises or York Pavilion where they have Adam Wright and James Kennedy, then I'd say put them at quarterback and, use that athleticism to your advantage. But if you want to maintain like a 60-40 run-pass balance, I would say you got to keep him on the outside to fill the void that Andrew Morling's going to leave because he's a senior, and, assuming Ferris is going to play quarterback, to give him at least one competent weapon that has experience on the outside. So I would say it depends on where you're looking to go as a team.
All right, coming up, we've got Coach Steve Donlon in the Coach's Corner. We'll get his thoughts on the semifinal game against Avon, his thoughts on the Class D title game. We will take a look at the season overall. He will give his grades for the offense, defense, and special teams. And we will do our salute to the seniors as well. It's the Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins Overtime Show on the My Team Media Network.
Canisteo-Greenwood Athletic Booster Club is proud to sponsor today's sectional semifinal broadcast as the Redskins continue their quest for a sectional title. The CG Athletic Booster Club is committed to supporting, encouraging, and enhancing the athletic experience for all student athletes at Canisteo-Greenwood Central School District. The CG Athletic Booster Club encourages CG fans to be loud, proud, and positive. Congratulations to all of our CG athletic teams and athletes for your accomplishments in the classroom and on the field of competition in the midst of one of our most difficult and challenging years. Best of luck today, Redskins. The Canisteo-Greenwood Athletic Booster Club and the CG community are proud of you.
What rhymes with great? participate.
Where does greatness start? Here, in the classroom. On the diamond.
In the pool. On the field.
Where will your greatness take you?
To better grades.
To more friends.
Yeah! Be great.
Participate.
It's the Coach's Corner on the My Team Media Network as we chat with head coach Steve Donlon about his team. Now, here's Joel Orian and Coach Donlon.
All right, let's bring in the first-year head coach of the Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins. His team finished 5-2 on the season, getting to the Section 5 Class D semifinals. It's Coach Steve Donlon. Coach, thanks so much for joining us on Redskins Overtime.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
The game was several weeks ago when you guys fell just short 16-8 against the Avon Braves in the semifinals. The Braves went on to win the Class D title. Have you watched the film yet? Is it too painful and you don't want to watch the film yet? Have you thought about it? Does it feel like it was just yesterday, the game, or does it feel like it was months ago?
No, we looked at it. I've thought about it every day. So, yeah, it's we decompressed a little bit for sure, and we got some time. But yeah, you gotta take a look at what went right and what went wrong. They left some points on the field, and so did we. It's just a matter of when you get them and when you don't. And no, I mean, to be honest, our offense did what we wanted to do starting out. We knew matching up against Avon, they were, I mean, I say this every week, their line was bigger than us, but it was probably a bigger line than we've seen all year. I think Bolivar's line would rival a little bit, but we also knew they had athletes. This is probably the first team we played this year where I felt like they had a few more athletes than we did at the skill positions, or I would at least make it even. Mm-hmm. So we knew passing was not going to be and everybody's seen us. They're just going to load up back there, and passing would be difficult, so we wanted to run. And we ran very well, I thought. The yardage doesn't show it a lot because we got the ball sometimes on their side of the field.
Right.
But, I thought Chase ran well. Our game plan was to be tough and execute, and we did it at times, especially in the first half. I thought we won the first quarter and the second quarter. That was our game plan. We wanted to surprise them by trying to pound it. We were able to pound it, sometimes with success. So no, it didn't all go the way we wanted. I mean, passing we didn't have as much success, but it was definite passing situations, and definite passing situations against athletes is going to be 50-50.
Your offense has been pretty good all year. You were consistently in the top 20 offenses in Section 5 when it comes to points per game. You guys were struggling to move the ball a little bit, especially in the air, only 41 yards in the air, but it was raining on and off. It was windy as well. So that could have contributed to it. As you mentioned, Avon knew you guys probably wanted to throw the football, so they were playing a little bit more of a passing defense. With all that being said, you guys did have the ball inside the red zone right before halftime. And at the end of the game, you did have the ball with an opportunity to go down and tie the game. It came down to a 4th and 1. You were probably back by your 30 or 35. You decide to run the fullback blast with John Cox. You guys had done that earlier in the game on short yardage. You also had run Rocky on a quarterback sneak. When you go back and think about it, or you go back and watch, do you think maybe we should have done a QB sneak in that spot? Do we fake the handoff, thinking Avon is going to play the run and maybe, roll Rocky out to see if he can get the edge after, faking the handoff? Or do you say, listen, that play worked earlier in the game. We needed 1 yard. We couldn't get 1 yard. The play call really doesn't matter.
We did it earlier, and it worked. When the play's over, it's certainly easy to say what we should have done.
Right.
But I didn't want to use our time out there. I thought we could get the yard with it. And, obviously, when it's all said and done, oh, shoot, we should have done something else. When something failed, it's easy to say, should have done something else, Coach. Right. We should have. But we didn't, and that's life. And so that's where we got to be. There's a lot of plays where we could have done something else. And there's a lot of plays that could have won us the game or lost us the game, and it wasn't just that one.
Yep.
So,
right.
There's a lot of things that happened that day that didn't go our way, and some did, and that one didn't.
The following week, the Braves, the 2 seed, hosted the Section 5 Class D title game. They took on the 4th seed, Alexander. The Braves won convincingly 42-7. Did you watch the title game, Coach?
Heck no. Rocky texted me that day. He said, "Coach, you going to watch?" And I said, "No, I'm going to." I told him exactly what I was doing. I went up to my cabin and spent the day, and, I'll check out the score later.
Yeah.
It was, it's painful. That's all.
Yeah.
It's still painful. And it's, something as a coach you got to live with. And, people are upset that we lost. No one's more upset than I am. I stayed away from it. And then, when you see it, Avon won, 42-7, it bugs you.
All right, you're an educator, and coaching is a lot about teaching, so I want to get your end-of-season grades for the offense, defense, and special teams. But let's start with your coaching staff. This clearly was a year like none other, uncharted territory, playing football in the spring. You're a first-year head coach with a new staff. You guys started working with the team last June. In the fall, you guys were unable to practice on the school grounds, so you got together at the American Legion during the summer, and in the fall, you guys hit the weight room during the winter, and then you finally get to hit the field and start practicing in March. So give me a grade for you and your coaching staff.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if you're going back to June of last year, I'm giving the rest of my coaching staff an A+. I don't know about me, but I'll give them an A+. Just people were there all summer, then all fall, and then even in the winter. I have a fantastic staff. And, you look at, what Coach Amadon and Coach Credo did with a very undersized line against big people. I thought our offense did a great job this year with Coach Kohler and doing the offense. And the stuff that we did in the weight room, Coach Amadon and Coach Canny, and it's evident. So the guys I have with me, I give an A+. Me, maybe a B. Plenty of stuff to learn.
Sure.
For the overall, yeah, we did all right.
All right, let's start with the offense. You know most of these stats, but let me throw some of these stats out for the benefit of our audience. You guys scored 149 points on the season. That's good for 24.8 points per game. In the air, you guys were 51 for 110, 883 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception. Per game, that's 18 attempts, 8 completions, 147 yards. On the ground, you guys rushed 175 times for 909 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's good for 5.2 yards per carry. Per game, 29 carries for 151 yards. So total offense, 1,792 yards on 285 plays, 19 total touchdowns. So per game, that's 47.5 offensive plays for 298 yards. Again, these are unofficial stats that we kept throughout the season. 67 first downs. That's an average of 11 first downs per game. On third down, you guys were 21 for 58. That's 36%. Fourth downs, you were 7 for 18. That's 38.9%. In the red zone, you guys were 14 for 24. That's good for 58%. 7 rushing touchdowns, 7 passing touchdowns. You guys had 5 touchdowns outside of the red zone, all of those in the air. And finally, 2-point conversions. You guys were perfect. 3 for 3 on 2-point conversions, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. Give me your end-of-season grade for the Redskins offense.
B+. I thought it was a good year, and I think a B+ is a good grade. I would have liked to see us be a more, that's why we changed up our game plan a little bit to Avon, that we want to pound the ball a little bit. We could have, but when you have the 2 receivers that we have outside, I don't know if that duo will ever be matched again.
Right.
If there's something to say about our offense, that was maybe the best ever that we had. That it was those 2 receivers. Our line is small, so it's not the biggest line we've ever had, for sure. Our line is very technically sound.
Yep.
Trying to be technically sound,
sure.
I should say. And they did a decent job. Even the games we lost at OAE and Avon, they put us in position to score. And then you got to make plays. I think the offense did a great job this year, especially with the kind of defenses that we saw. Avon is a really, really good defense, and yet we probably could have put up 21 on them. and didn't. So, yeah, I think we did okay with it.
All right, let's move to the defensive side of the ball. I know you probably scrutinize this film and these stats a little bit more as a defensive-minded and defensive-oriented coach. So here we go. You guys had one shutout on the season, 78 points against. That's 13 points per game. Your opponents had 58 first downs on the year. That's good for 9.6 first downs per game. On third downs, your opponents were 20 for 62. That's good for 32%. On fourth downs, your opponent was 5 for 15 for 33%. 16 sacks. Your opponents only got into the red zone 8 times. They were 6 for 8. Those touchdowns consisted of 5 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown. 4 of those 5 touchdowns given up by Canisteo-Greenwood defense came at the hand of the Aggies. So outside of the OAE game, the Redskins defense only gave up 1 rushing touchdown inside the red zone. The defense gave up 5 touchdowns outside of the red zone, 3 on the ground, 2 in the air. So that's a total of 8 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns that the defense surrendered. And 2-point conversions, your opponent was 1 for 1. Give me your grade for the Red Wall, the Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins defense.
And did you check out? I was trying to look at the other day if we were plus or minus, what we were plus for turnovers. Did you do that or not?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. I have that right here. Matter of fact, you were better this year than last year. Last year it was plus 6. This year you ended with a plus 7. You guys had 6 fumbles lost and an interception. You had 7 fumble recoveries and 7 interceptions. So 7 for you, 14 for them. That's a plus 7 in the giveaway takeaway.
Yeah, so I thought we did a good job in that category. If you want me to give a grade on that, it's a B plus or A minus. Maybe A minus. You take away OAE. It was a tough defense for sure. I thought we were maybe the best defense in Class D until I saw Avon.
Right.
Avon's defense was a little tougher than us, I thought, but not by much. Yep. So if you look at the defensive line, what Ryder Slayton could give, up the middle and really cause pressure, and then you have 2 defensive ends that can coop, the plays. With a solid linebacking core with John Cox in the middle, but I really think what tops it was the defensive backs. We had such good athletes that it was so hard for a team to pass on us when they had to. And that is, our really good teams in Hornell were like that. That a lot of times in small school football, your defensive backs are maybe not your best athletes, but you got to put a couple of them out there. And some of our best athletes were in our defensive backfield this year, and it really counted. When those teams wanted to pass the ball, and they couldn't. I think that gives us an advantage, and they got after it, and they worked hard, and they practiced hard. And when it came to Avon, I'll tell you, look at the film that makes you most proud. Really, I look at them as 2 goal line stands at the end of the game where we end up blocking field goals. They didn't let down.
Yep.
That's a real, true show of the character, and I think that's really important.
All right, let's move to the special teams, and they were pretty special this year. You guys on extra points, 14 for 18, that's 77%. Your opponents, 8 for 10, that's 80%. Field goals, you guys were 1 for 3. Your opponents were 0 for 3. You guys blocked every one of those. You guys did not give up any punt or kickoff returns for a touchdown. You guys did not have any kickoff or punt returns for a touchdown. You did not have a punt blocked. You blocked 1 punt, and that turned into a touchdown. Give me your grade for your special teams.
I got to put an A on that, really. I can't. Our kick coverage wasn't always great. Our kickoff coverage, I think, sometimes gave up too many yards. So maybe back down to a B minus or B plus to A minus. What was really evident, I thought, with our special teams, you could tell that we did that from June on. And that made the difference, I think, in the Geneseo game where they have a great kicker who can kick it far, but they can't block it up the same way that we could block it up. And I know we still missed ours, but, the idea of blocking a punt and doing it well so that you don't have one of those major catastrophe special teams events happen to you, that's so important for us. And so we've worked on it for a very long time. We work on our special teams, and John Amadon runs that for us, and I thought that they did a really, really good job.
All right, let's do our salute to seniors. I will run down the seniors on this year's Redskins football team. I'll throw out some stats that I have. You just give me your thoughts, impressions, and lasting memories of coaching these student-athletes. We will go in numerical order. We will ascend from the highest jersey numbers to the lowest. Okay, number 88, Ryder Slayton, 6', 175, tight end, defensive lineman. His career offensive numbers, 5 catches, 47 yards, a touchdown, and 3 2-point conversion catches. Defensively this year, he had 28 tackles, 5 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, and 1 TD. So overall in his career, 69 tackles, 5 sacks, 5 fumble recoveries, and 3 defensive touchdowns. Scoring-wise, that's 4 touchdowns, 3 conversion catches for 30 points. Talk to me about Ryder Slayton.
Ryder's just one of those kids that never quits. Obviously, he's a fantastic wrestler. I think took 5th at this spring tournament that he had, and he's been to states wrestling. Just a great, wholesome kid that we loved because he puts so much pressure on the quarterback, or he almost takes the handoff, sometimes. And he's fighting against guys a lot bigger than him. And Saturday, in Avon, we moved him over and put him right on the center, who was causing us a lot of problems. And, it helped a little bit. So someone we're going to miss him plenty. He was a great athlete, a great leader for us.
Number 80, Jackson Crook, wide receiver DB. He played some defense for you, had a tackle this year.
He was a convert from soccer. And again, we had a number of those kids that came over. But he worked in at wide receiver for us. He worked defensive back for us. And, we always talk about the importance of, not just the starters, but the guys who are getting us ready. And Jackson's usually our free safety over there and giving us a look. And they all know how to do that. And, he's a great kid with a great sense of humor, loves to come up and joke, and really glad that he came out for football this year.
All right, up next, number 77, Nate Button, offense, defensive lineman, 6', 210. In his sophomore year, he came up, 7 tackles, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery. His junior year, 60 tackles. He led the team in tackles, 6 sacks, and a safety. So his total defensive numbers, 67 tackles, 7 sacks, a fumble recovery, and a safety. He also was a starter on the offensive line in 2019. He had surgery on his wrist before the season, so he was unable to play. He is committed to Utica College to play football. Talk to me about the player who the fans lovingly refer to as Nate Dogg.
Well, yeah, he got hurt at wrestling practice that first week, so we're probably, and I'll say, we might be a Jared Coombs and Nate Button away from a championship, if we have them at Avon. Right. I think he means that much to us. But I was able to coach him in the summertime and the wintertime and in the fall. He's a great kid. He's hoping to go to Utica to play football up there, and I think he can do that. So obviously we would have loved to have him this season. I think he makes a difference in a couple of games, but we had to deal without. So sometimes you got to do that.
Number 75, Austin Vance, 5'8", 175, offense, defensive lineman, had 7 tackles and a fumble recovery this year.
What a great kid. He's worked hard, and he worked through some adversity. He was the center in 2019, and he lost that job on the offensive line, and that didn't stop him from being a great teammate and working hard, and probably, his strong suit. And we got to see this on Saturday. He went in at the end of the game and got 2 tackles against Avon. He's really good on the defensive side of the ball. He did a nice job on Saturday for us.
All right, up next, number 72, Jacob Mullen, offense, defensive lineman, 5'6", 270, one of the best and most dominating offensive linemen coming up through the ranks. A lot of people thought he would be a real powerhouse in Class D and one of the best linemen. In 2019, Mullen was a starter on the offensive line, a Redskins offense that had 376 plays, 2,248 yards, an average of 47 plays per game, 281 yards per game. That's an average of 5.9 yards per play, 18 offensive touchdowns. The offense averaged 20.7. With this year's offense included, that's 550 total plays, over 4,000 yards, and 36 offensive touchdowns. The 2 years that Mullen was on the offensive line, they averaged over 22 points per game. On defense, he had 16 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 fumble recovery. Talk to me about Jacob Mullen.
Oh, Mully. He's a good boy. Oh, we'll miss the heck out of him. He's fun, and he's obviously a great football player, and we've enjoyed having him coach. And, what he's done on the offensive line, then defensive line, plugging things up. It's been, he's just done a great job for us, and it's hard to replace kids like that. that come and give 100% all the time, and he's one of them.
Number 70, Riley Payne, 5'10", 175, offensive lineman, linebacker. In 2019, he had 11 tackles. This year, 10 tackles, 1 fumble recovery, and a touchdown. Offensively, he had 1 catch for 14 yards this year. So overall, defensively, 21 tackles, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 touchdown. Talk to me about number 70.
Can there ever be just lasting thoughts on Riley Payne? He's a great kid, man. He's a lot of fun. He wore 2 jerseys for us this year. Every year he wanted to put on his back jersey, and I'm like, no, put your lineman one on, bud. He was fortunate enough, though. He got that fumble recovery and touchdown, which was fantastic for him. I was so happy against York. He was able to do that, and he was also, we were able to give him a pass over at Cuba. So just a kid who really appreciated football, and he enjoyed playing.
Number 62, Brandon Smith, defensive lineman. He had 3 tackles this year.
If I had Brandon Smith for 4 years, you would have a lot more stats for him.
Right.
He is a giant kid who came over from soccer, so he's been playing soccer all this time, and he's even said, "Hey, man, I wish I did this longer." If we had a little bit more time with him and even if we had a real preseason this year, I think it would have helped a lot of these soccer kids out as well. But he was just one of these kids that you just wish you had more time with, because he could have really been a powerhouse for us.
Number 50, Caleb Kitka, 5'8", 160, offensive and defensive lineman. In 2019, on defense, he had 21 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pass deflection. This year he had 16 tackles and 1 sack. So total on defense, 37 tackles, 3 sacks, and a pass deflection. He was on the offensive line in 2019, a team that gained over 2,200 yards and averaged 20 points per game. He was on the offensive line this year, so combined over 550 plays for over 4,000 yards, 36 offensive touchdowns, and helping the offense to average 22 points over the last 2 years. Talk to me about number 50.
Kika's just one of those great kids, man. You're going to miss. Hard-working, undersized lineman. What else is new for us? But, defensive end, he worked his butt off, and in guard, he worked his butt off. And, you got to be technically sound, and he worked really hard to be technically sound. Caleb Kika is a kid that does anything you need, from defensive end and to guard. Has been one of our leaders, been a leader in the weight room. Man, a kid that he gets banged up, and he keeps going. And you really, really admire that about a kid that really doesn't have a lot of quit in him. So someone that we're definitely going to miss. We're going to miss a lot of his leadership.
Up next, number 45, Torin Pogue, tight end linebacker. He got in and played some defense this year. He had a tackle. Talk to me about Torin.
Torin Pogue's a kid I really like a lot. He's a soccer player that came over. He's really got a good motor, and he helped our team a lot. I know you look at it and say, well, he's got 1 tackle, but he really helped our team a lot because he did almost everything we need him to do on the practice squad. And so, I remember him in those first couple of practices in the beginning of our season, snowing on us, and there's Torin just going at it and working hard for us. So I'm really, really glad he came out and played football.
Up next, another young man that played football coming up through the ranks on some really good youth football teams, modified and JV teams, and helped out the last 2 years on varsity. Owen Chafee, number 44, tight end, a defensive end. In 2019, he had 7 catches for 109 yards and a 2-point conversion catch. Along with being a tight end, Owen helped to block on that 2019 offensive line that gained over 1,000 yards on the ground on 229 carries and 10 rushing touchdowns, and he helped to protect Rocky Santiago from the tight end position as the offense had 1,223 yards in the air and 8 TDs. He had 11 tackles and 1 sack. Talk to me about the senior, Owen Chafee.
Owen's a good boy. He worked his way into, he started at tight end for us against OAE and ended up getting hurt, unfortunately. But a kid who might have the best hands on our team. Don't say that to a couple of our other receivers. But Owen's got some really great hands, and, he worked for us at basically any position you need him to do. He did special teams, and just one of those guys who was willing to do anything for us.
All right. Up next, number 40, kicker Martina Boust, the senior from the Netherlands. She made history as the first ever female varsity football player at Canisteo-Greenwood. WETM did a great story on her, so did the Evening Tribune. Coach, talk to me about Martina Baust and being able to coach her.
Martina, she had 8 points for us this year?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, she was so fun. I can't even. She was super fun to have around. Made me laugh most of the time. Has a great leg, obviously, and really good sense of humor. I think all of our coaches are going to miss her a ton, just simply because of who she was. But also, what I really, really like about it is that we were able to give an example to, being a dad of 2 daughters, to the ladies out there, that you can do whatever you want. And I think that was great for her. So I'm going to miss her too.
And no doubt about it. I think in the Cuba game she had a trifecta. She kicked. I think she had a carry and she had a tackle in that game. So she
did all those. Yeah.
She did a little bit of everything for you. Up next, number 33, the Birdman, Aiden Bird. This year he had 13 tackles and a sack. He had 3 rushes for 10 yards as well. Your thoughts on number 33?
Aiden played soccer and came over, and again, one of those kids that if we had for a couple years, you'd see those stats explode. He's just a guy who has a motor, and you talk about making his teammates better. He did that for us every single day. He earned himself a start against OAE at defensive end. He was someone who went in regularly in games because he was just someone who could give us reps, and really, really wish he would have played earlier.
Number 32, John Cox, fullback linebacker, 5'8", 190. I'll give you his career stats: 49 carries for 188 and a touchdown, 2 catches for 16 yards on defense, 73 tackles, 1 sack, and a blocked field goal. And again, he had 39 tackles this year, leading your Redskins defense. Your thoughts on John?
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him. No doubt, he is our leader on defense, and he was leader in the weight room. He was a good example for his teammates. He was our tough guy, man, and he came downhill at people defensively, and he came downhill when he ran the ball, and if he hit you, you knew it. He was just someone who we're going to have a tough time replacing at that Mike linebacker position because of everything he gave us.
All right, let's continue on. As the numbers get smaller, the stats continue to get bigger. Number 22, Andrew Morling, 6'2", 150, wide receiver, DB, punter. In 2018, he had 4 tackles and 1 forced fumble. In 2019, he had 1 carry for 9 yards, 38 catches for 497, 3 TDs, and a 2-point conversion catch. On defense in 2019, he had 41 tackles and 2 interceptions. Punting, he punted 17 times for 756. That's an average of 44 yards per punt. This year, he was 1 for 1 passing, 5 yards and a TD, rushing 5 carries for 23 yards, receiving 20 catches for 349 yards, 4 TDs, and 2 conversion catches. On defense, 24 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, a sack, and 2 blocked field goals. So in total in his career, passing 1 for 1 for 5 yards and a touchdown, 6 carries for 32 yards. 58 catches, 846 yards, 7 TDs, and 3 2-point conversion catches. That's 14.5 yards per catch in his career. On defense in total, 69 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, a sack, and 2 blocked field goals. All-purpose yards, 915 yards, and he had 48 points in his career. He was named to the Section 5 Class D first team. He is committed to go up the road and play for Alfred University. Your thoughts on 22?
We got to keep talking about kids. It's going to be tough to replace. Andrew's going to be, someone that we have a hard time doing that with. He was a great leader. Again, he's one of our weight room guys. Like Kika and Mullen and John Cox and. He was there all the time. Just someone that the kids could look up to. His work ethic is very good. His skills at wide receiver, although are going to get better when he goes to AU. He's got a lot to learn. He was fantastic at the high school level. And, defensively, I trusted him on every dangerous person we had. Right. He's the guy I went to. So, absolutely going to miss him. And he gave Canisteo all that he had.
Number 12, Nolan Gardner, 5'6", 140. Running back, DB. This year he had 9 carries for 40 yards. That's 4.4 yards per carry. He's not the biggest cat in the world, but he played coming up through the ranks, and he always was that guy that would fill in and do whatever you needed on the team, whether it be offense or defense. Talk to me about Nolan.
Yeah, Nolan is that guy that fills in when you need him. As a matter of fact, even at the end of the season, we were going against blitzing teams, and he was being a blitzing linebacker, and he was very good at it. Just showing up and all right, we need to do that right. We need to do that right because Nolan got us again. He's a kid that did anything that we need him to do, and was a good teammate for his guys.
Ethan Hosmer, number 9, 5'9", 140, wide receiver, defensive back. In 2019, he had 4 kick returns for 40 yards. On defense, he had 5 tackles. This year, he had 1 catch for 8 yards. On defense, 3 tackles. So in total, 48 all-purpose yards and 8 tackles. Talk to me about number 9.
I think one of the problems about being a skill kid with this group of skill kids is it's going to be hard to break in. Ethan was my next guy off the bench, and he got in a couple times in games at Cuba. Got to go in, for most of it because he was my next guy off the bench. It's just with as skilled as cats around him, it was tough for him. What I really like about what Ethan did was he worked his butt off. He just tried to get better, and when he's on the scout team, Rocky's like, Ethan always drops back. I go, I know, because he works his butt off. He's not going to give you stuff over the top, and he was just that kind of guy who worked really, really hard. It's too bad that you don't, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But like I said, we need people working on both sides of the ball, and he definitely did that for us.
Number 3, 5'10", quarterback, DB, Rocky Santiago. In 2018, he was 48 for 84, 602, 6 TDs, 6 interceptions. He had a record of 6-1. 2019, 76 for 127, 1,069 yards, 8 TDs, 4 interceptions. A record as the starter, 4-4. This season, 47 for 101, 836 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, a record of 5-2. So in total, in the air, 171 for 312, 2,507 yards, 25 TDs, 11 interceptions, and a record as a starter of 15-7. That's a completion percentage of 54%, 14.6 yards per completion, and per game, that's basically 7 for 14 for 114 yards and a TD. Rushing, 2018, 18 carries, 13 yards, 4 TDs. 2019, 16 carries, 45 yards, and a TD, and a 2-point conversion rush. This year, 31 for 187 and 2 TDs. So in total on the ground, 65 carries, 245 yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion run. That's 44 points in his career. Total yards over the last 3 years, 2,757 yards. That's over 1.5 miles of offense. Defensively, in 2019, he had 13 tackles, 2 interceptions. This year, 26 tackles, 1 sack, and an interception. So total on defense, 39 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 1 sack. In his final varsity game, he also had a catch for 5 yards that resulted in a touchdown. He's headed up the road as well to play for the Alfred University Saxons. He was named to the Section 5 Class D first team. Talk to me about number 3.
Oh, what a great leader he's been. Probably one of the greatest compliments I can give is that I don't think he ever got down. I never saw him sad until we lost to Avon. And when bad things would happen, he handled it. I mean, we talked about that at the Bolivar game. That, things didn't start off well at Bolivar. He dealt with it. And he's just such an even keel kid and such a leader. And I think it was just evident so many times. These kids rally around him. I mean, you talk about of all the leaders, Rocky's right there in the center. We have a lot of good ones, obviously. But they look to him. What a better example than the guy who's the valedictorian.
Right.
The guy that studies, the guy that works hard in the classroom, and he works hard on the field as well. He's been a great role model for his friends. And we're going to miss the heck out of him for sure. But him and Andrew, or I think John Cox too. I think they're going to give it a go up at Alfred, and I look forward to that.
And finally, last but not least, number 2. 5'10", 175, Chase Weeks, running back, linebacker. In 2019, he had 95 carries for 408 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 2 conversion runs, 3 catches for 43 yards, On defense in 19, he had 18 tackles and an interception. This year, 69 tackles, 409 yards, 2 rushing TDs. He had 2 catches for 53 yards and a TD on defense, 22 tackles and a sack. So in total, in his career, 164 carries for 817 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and 2 conversion runs. That's an average per game of 13.6 carries, 68 yards, 4.9 yards per carry. Receiving 5 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. That's an average of 19 yards per catch. So that's 14 all-purpose touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions for 88 points. On defense, 40 tackles, a sack, and an interception. He dealt with some injuries through his career, but he continued to work through them. He was also named to the Section 5 Class D first team. Talk to me about Chase Weeks.
What a tough kid. We're going to miss him. We're going to miss him very much. He came around to the fact and understand how important he is to other people throughout this season. And when I saw that change in him, we saw, different results for us, especially, defensively and from the running back position. When he realized that, how important we are to other people. We could have, and if it was a different year, he would have had, 700, 800 yards in the short season that we had. We just weren't a pound the ball team as much when you have those receivers out there. So, it was a little bit of a different scheme. His jump cut is about as good as I've seen. His speed is very good. But then you go to the other side of the ball. He was going to start the season at free safety, but we needed someone to fill in for Jared Coombs at linebacker, and he came up and he was fantastic at will for us. So, we'll miss the heck out of him, and again, just a part of that senior group here that we just named off a ton of kids.
That's right.
That we're going to miss.
Well, we just named a lot of seniors and a lot of starters and a lot of stats. But when you look at the team, Coach, the cupboard is not bare for 2021 this fall. You guys have a pretty good foundation to build on.
No, it's not bare. I think we have 10 seniors coming back. We had a JV team that was undefeated. I think a modified team lost 1 game. But, something that I have to really make sure that the underclassmen understand is that there's been plenty of undefeated teams in Canisteo at JVs and modified and in midgets. And so where you win is the weight room. And what we just completed this year was really the first time ever that we stuck together for a whole summer. And then we had to stick together longer because of COVID, but we stuck together all summer, and we need to do that again. I mean, that's got to be what we do every year. It's going to be tough. We're going to have to come back with a new fullback and a new tail, a new quarterback. But we got 3 out of 5 linemen coming back. We got Hunter coming back on the outside. We got some stuff to bring for next year. No, it's not going to be totally bare, but we have a lot of hard work.
Let's take a way too early look and preview at the 2021 fall Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins football team. We just talked about a lot of good guys that you've got to replace. You're losing your entire offensive backfield. You're losing your all-time leading receiver. You're losing your leading tackler on defense, but you've got some real good players already on the varsity that contributed this year, and you've got some young kids coming up from the undefeated JV. So a good foundation. One thing you guys will look at, I'm sure, is Cole Ferris was the quarterback this year, the backup behind Rocky Santiago. He's played quarterback throughout the ranks. Hunter McCaffrey was the JV starter in 2019. So I guess the thought is, Coach, if you want to be a run-heavy team maybe this fall, you bring Hunter McCaffrey back under center to put the ball in his hands and utilize his athleticism more and maybe move Cole someplace else? Or do you like Hunter out there? He's tall, he's very athletic, he's fast, so maybe keeping Cole under center and having Hunter out wide is something you guys like, but some decisions I'm sure you and your coaching staff have probably already started looking at and mulling over.
Yeah. Yeah, I like him out there. We'll figure some things out. I mean, Cole can play. I also would like to see Cole still be a receiver, too. So there's a few things we got going on in our head, but we have some athletes coming, and Cole and Hunter are a big part of what we're going to do. Where they end up, we don't exactly know right now, but we're going to put some things on paper and see how it all turns out.
Well, it's going to be a much faster turnaround this year than normal. A regular high school football season is going to end maybe late October, late November if you're winning a state title around Thanksgiving. Then you grind through the winter, and, training camp starts in August. Well, you guys ended your season on April 25th, and you'll be going back to training camp in August. When will you know the schedule, and what's your off-season looking like?
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm hoping it's soon, the next few weeks, see what the schedule is. I know for us, I'm putting together our calendar. We're going to start lifting, last week of June like we always plan on doing, and then I think August 24th or something, the first official day of the season. So, right now we're more concerned about what our summer calendar looks like and what we're going to try to get down and accomplish offensively and defensively and special teams during that time. I look forward to seeing the beds numbers.
Yep.
Avon came down and won sectionals. They're also, fresh from Class C, so that could change and might not. So.
Yep. My final question is, you've been on the sidelines now for 20 years, mostly on the defensive side of the ball as a defensive coordinator or an assistant to the head coach. This is your first year as the head man. Was it everything you hoped it would be? Was it everything you expected? Was it everything you imagined? Now as you decompress, talk to me about your first year as a head coach.
I don't know what I thought it would be. It's not easy. What I'm most proud about, to be real honest, we had a good year in terms of making men and women out of our players,
Thanks, Coach, so much for being so generous with your time this year, sitting down each week and recording a Coach's Corner with us. You made sure to get us player stats after every game this year. You gave us great access to the program. You let us come up to practice, take time out of practice to have the players record liners and their own intros. You recorded liners for us, and just allowing us to do that and have that stuff, in my opinion, made our broadcast 10 times better. And it's not because of me, but because of that access and those features, our broadcast 10 times better than any other digital sports media company or broadcast in Western or Central New York. A lot of people think they can just show up with a camera and a microphone, and if they know the team's records and mascots, that makes for a broadcast. But you made our broadcast so much better with the access to your team. I know you have some kids that play some spring sports, so hopefully you can spend time with your family. I know being a head football coach or an assistant coach is all-consuming, and during football season, not a lot of family time, and football season will be here before we know it again here in the fall. So enjoy your summer, rest, relax. We greatly appreciate everything you did for us. Continued success.
Man, thank you guys so much for the coverage. We appreciate it. Take care.
All righty, former player, alum from Canisteo-Greenwood, Steve Donlon. A new era has started for Canisteo-Greenwood football. We'll see how it progresses from here. It's off to a good start. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more of the Redskins Overtime Show on the My Team Media Network.
The Harmon Agency in Canisteo is your all-in-one stop for your insurance needs, whether personal or commercial. They can provide the insurance you need for homes, mobile homes, rental properties, auto insurance, trailers, ATVs, snowmobiles, life insurance, and disability insurance, too. To get a free quote today, contact Christy at 607-698-5060 or by email at christy@theharmonagency.com or stop by the office on 56A West Main Street in Canisteo, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or by appointment Saturday. The Harmon Agency in Canisteo. Strides above the rest.
The Rexville Country Store has your everyday food and grocery needs. From milk and bread to wraps, hot and cold subs, pizza, and wings. They've got it all. Call 225-FOOD and check them out on Facebook at Rexville Country Store for specials. Located at 1364 State Route 248 in Rexville. Open Wednesday and Thursday 11 to 9, Friday and Saturday 9 to 9, and Sunday 8 to 3. The Rexville Country Store goes hog wild when CG wins.
I'm Coach Remcha.
And I'm Coach Knapp.
And this is this year's squad.
My name is Trinity Gonzalez, and I'm a senior at Canisteo.
My name is Marion Mullen. I'm a senior, and Aubrey Whitmore is my favorite football player.
Julia Venturelli, senior.
Kirsten Gerbs, senior.
Aubrey Whitmore, senior, and my favorite football player is Marion Mullen.
Madison Woodworth, freshman.
Chloe Freeberg, senior.
Ariana Grice, senior.
Shout out to Andrew and Rocky for committing to Alfred University football.
Madeline Mullen, 8th grade.
E-B-I-B-I-G-R-E-D, let's go. Big Red, let's go. Big Red, let's go. Big Red.
Section 5 football plays on the My Team Media Network.
Welcome back to the My Team Media Network, Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins Overtime Show. And we appreciate it greatly if you would SFL. Subscribe, follow, and like on all of our social media digital platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. All right, without further ado, it is Tanner's Top 5 Plays of the Year.
Number 5.
And now the punt here. Have to scoop it up off of the turf, and now the punter going to run with it. He is taken down, and the ball comes out. CG with the recovery. Now running into the end zone. Canisteo-Greenwood, the touchdown.
And number 4.
No, they're sending out the field goal unit here to try and take the lead. As Geneseo Mount Morris snap spot kick is up. It's blocked. It's blocked.
And number 3.
Here's Santiago coming out under center here on this first down. Takes the snap. He'll take a 7-step drop. Now rolls out to his right and fires. Hits Andrew Moreling. He's got the first down. Moreling down the sidelines. Breaks a tackle. Andrew Moreling going to take it to the house here for Canisteo-Greenwood.
Number 2.
Santiago fires across his body. McCaffrey wide open, and he strolls into the end zone. My goodness.
And the number 1.
1st and 10 here from midfield for Canisteo-Greenwood. Santiago sends Weeks in motion across the formation. Now fake to Weeks, fire to the near side flat, caught by Andrew Moreling. He's got running room inside the 30, makes a couple men miss. Now cutting across the field, makes a couple more miss, and shakes out another one inside the 10. 5 touchdown Canisteo.
All right, there is your audio version of Tanner's Top 5 Plays of the Year. We will have the audio and video Top 5 Plays of the Year on our social media platforms, so you can listen and watch those. We will put those up separately. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll wrap it up with end-of-season awards on the Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins Overtime Show on the My Team Media Network.
High school sports are as American as apple pie. And going to a game or meet is a chance to see the stars of tomorrow shine today. But as anybody who's ever attended a high school sporting event in New York knows, you can't have the stars without the stripes. High schools are currently looking for new officials in almost every sport. Who looks good in stripes? Anybody looking for a way to stay connected to a sport they love. If you like the idea of giving back to your community while earning a few extra bucks, chances are you'd look good in stripes too. We want to hear from you. We need to hear from you. No officials means no games. No stripes means no stars. And what kind of America would that be? New York needs more high school officials. Go to highschoolofficials.com to sign up or learn more. That's highschoolofficials.com.
No need to go and deal with that headache. Colebrook Auto has auction prices on their lot at 3656 State Route 414 in Corning. Colebrook Auto, where you'll pay bottom dollar for top quality pre-owned vehicles. Colebrook Auto, where you'll get the best prices and the best choices from a hand-picked inventory of great vehicles. At these prices, this inventory won't last long. Online at colebrookauto.com and on Facebook at Colebrook Auto. Open Monday through Friday between 9 and 5. Auction prices on their lot. You won't be swarmed by a commission-driven sales team like a bunch of hornets. At Colebrook Auto, there's zero pressure and no hassle. Colebrook Auto, a true deal is what they'll give you.
Now, soda appears to them on Cargill.
Hi, this is Steve Donlon, and your home for CG football is the My Team Media Network.
Welcome back to Redskins Overtime on the My Team Media Network. Please, if you could, and we thank you so much in advance, to SFL. Subscribe, follow, and like on all our social media and digital platforms. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. All right, I believe Tanner is ready. Either that or he's going to get married. He's in his tux. He's got the envelopes. So let's do the end of season awards. This is for pride. Not prize. You don't win anything, but you can brag to your family and friends. Now, because Tanner Saunders is handing out these awards, at first I thought we could call them the Sandies or the T-Sauce Awards. I thought, well, maybe the Webbies, but since we're a digital sports media broadcasting company, I thought, well, why don't we just call them the digisports Awards? So, last, but certainly not least, it's the My Team Media End of Season Digisports Awards. Take it away, Tanner.
The Offensive Player of the Year, and I'm going to give it to Andrew Morling, the senior wide receiver. He was incredible all season long, reliable, chain mover, 20 receptions, 349 yards, and 4 touchdown receptions. Him and Rocky have been doing it, their entire careers. Andrew Morling has the record for receptions in a season for Canisteo-Greenwood, and I don't know off the top of my head, but career receptions, I would assume he would be number one. Just an incredible career and season from Andrew Morling. Most Improved Player. The NFL, they don't have a Most Improved Player award. The NBA does. If the NFL had one, it would have been Josh Allen last year, no question. So we have one here as well. The NFL should adopt one too. So NFL, if you're listening to this, Roger Goodell, get the ball rolling on that. But the Most Improved Player, I am going to go with Hunter McCaffrey because, as I said, had no experience prior to this season playing wide receiver. Was a quarterback at the JV level. He filled in at quarterback last year because of injury concerns, but filling in for wide receiver, it looked like he had played the position his whole life. Just the ability to take the top off the defense, make big plays. Another reliable target for Rocky Santiago. Finished the season as the team's leading receiver. Was tied for Morling with receptions with 20, 380 yards, 19 yards per catch, and 5 touchdown receptions, which led the team. He was also the team's leading scorer with 30 points. The Outstanding Senior Award, and I'm going to give that to Rocky Santiago, the starting quarterback of the Redskins. Like I said earlier, by all accounts, he wants to win. He's a great leader. Seems like a hard worker. He's a very talented football player. I can tell you that from watching him in person these past 2 years and then going back watching the film. He's a very good player and, seems like a great guy to be around off the field as well. And, he led this team through good and bad. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way you wanted, but he had a fantastic season, and they're going to miss him dearly. On the offensive side of the ball, he completed 47 of his 101 passing attempts. That's good for 46.5%, 836 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception on the ground, had 31 carries for 187 yards. That's good for 6 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns, and can't be overlooked on the defensive end as well. He had 26 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble. We've been giving the offense some love here with these end-of-season honors. How about the defense? Mr. Sack. Who is Mr. Sack? This Redskins defense, they were fantastic. They had 16 sacks in total, but the top honor goes to Ryder Slayton. He had 5 sacks, as well as 28 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown. Like I said, Nate Dogg was unable to go this year, so someone had to fill in and replace that edge rusher role, and Ryder Slayton was able to do it. He's a wrestler as well. He's going to be going on to wrestle at the next level, so there you have it. Ryder Slayton, Mr. Sack. The leading tackler, Mr. Tackle, I guess you could say, and that goes to Jonathan Cox. He led the team 39 tackles here for this Redskins defense. He was great from that linebacker position. They dealt with some injuries there. Jared Coombs was supposed to be a linebacker, but he got injured week 1, so there was some shuffling around him, but he was always, a model of consistency for that linebacking core, the leader of that linebacking core. He was fantastic, and making CG's run defense what it was. He had a great season, and it shows as he led the team in tackle. we'll go ball hawk here. The INT leader for the Redskins, an opportunistic defense. 7 interceptions on the year, but 3 of those interceptions went to Hunter McCaffrey. So he racks up his second piece of hardware here. 32 tackles on the season, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. We'll give the special teams some love. We've just covered offense, defense. Now, special teams, I am going to give it to they're both foreign exchange students, but we'll give it to Martina Bausch. I mean, obviously, we don't have to say that her story's incredible. You know, she was a soccer player, a striker over in her native country, and then came over to the United States. A rare opportunity for some of these soccer players to be able to play football, but she was able to do it, and her and PJ Otten both kicked 9 extra points this year. She knocked down 8 of them. That's good for 89%. So your special teams player of the year, Martina Bausch.
All right, before we get out of here, a little bit of some house cleaning. We want to give out some thanks, and we have an announcement as well. So I've been doing CG football since late 2018 when they made it to the semifinals. I did 2019, and this year Tanner has done the last 2 years with me. Now, he lives in Painted Post, so, you know, he comes up to Hornell for the home games, and then for all the away games in Allegheny County, whether it be in Cuba Rushford or all the way up to Batavia this year as well, so he does a lot of traveling. He came up and recorded Coach Donlon, the players, and the cheerleaders. He's been attending Corning Community College for the last couple years. And now, Tanner, I believe you're moving on to the next level of your education, correct?
That is correct. I will be taking my talents to SUNY Buffalo State College, where I plan to pursue this type of thing, more in-depth communications, sports broadcasting. So, you know, it's unfortunate that my time here is looking like it's coming to an end, being the voice of the Redskins. But these last 2 years have been an absolute pleasure to see, you know, some of the best talent in Section 5 Class D, and to, you know, at least get my feet wet and somewhat hone my craft. That's what I hope to do at Buffalo State, is really hone in on my craft. But, you know, I'm thankful to have gotten my start here covering Canisteo-Greenwood, working with you, Joel. You know, you've been like a mentor to me over the years. You taught me everything I know. So, you know, it's unfortunate that the time here has come to an end, but I'm grateful for having the chance. And thank you, Redskins Nation, for, you know, accepting me as a member of the family for these past 2 years. And Joel, thank you for giving me the opportunity as well. But as you say, all good things must come to an end, and this is no exception.
What is that? Are they the Bengals up there at Buff State?
That's right. Benji the Bengal, the mascot, the Buffalo State Bengals. So, you know, I'm a Bills fan at heart, but I can, you know, I'll call myself a Bengal.
There you go. What are you going to take away from your 2 years with Canisteo-Greenwood? What's going to be one lasting memory or thought you'll have about the CG program or community as a whole?
Wow. I haven't really thought about this until this moment. I'm just, like I said, I'm grateful to have been a part of it. You know, watching this team this last season especially was a pleasure. You know, all the adversity, we didn't even know if we would have a season or how things were going to shake out. But, you know, to have been able to have had a season and watch this team, they were an absolute pleasure to watch, a great team. It was amazing, and I was blessed to be a part of it. And, you know, Canisteo it's a small, tight-knit community. I'm sure, you know, they love their football and would fight to the death for their team. So, you know, to be a part of that, be something so, you know, small and tight-knit, it was honestly amazing. It was a great experience.
Want to give a couple thanks before we head out of here. Firstly, Steve Donlon, first-year head coach at Canisteo-Greenwood. He gave us terrific access to the program, which only makes our broadcast better. He allowed us to come up to practice before the season started, to record the players, doing their intros and recording liners for us. He recorded some liners for us. He sat down each week and recorded the Coach's Corner show with us, and he gave us stats after every game this season. So during the broadcast, we could acknowledge what the players had done throughout the season and give them credit for everything they did as far as stats. Because unlike college, there's no SID, Sports Information Director, to give you all the stats and the history between, you know, the two teams that are going at it, or the NFL. There's not a lot of sites out there where you can gather a lot of stats for high school teams. You got to go back. You got to read newspaper articles. You got to, dig to see where you can get any stats you can for teams and players at the high school level. So he made that so much easier when it came to his ball club, the Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins. Secondly, CG Athletic Director Chris Kohler. He made sure that we had access and room in the press boxes at home games, away games. He was there if we ever had any questions or needed anything. He also helped to get the word out about our broadcasts on CG's social media platforms. And CG Superintendent Tom Crook, the Board of Ed, and the entire CG Central School District. A lot of schools during the pandemic started streaming their own sports on YouTube and Facebook. CG did a great job during the fall and the winter putting their sports on their own social media platforms. And they allowed us to join up with them and broadcast these games. It would have really not made any sense for us to go to the games and broadcast the games and have the audio and the video if CG was going to be doing the video as well. We would have just been competing with each other. So we really appreciate them bringing us into the fold this year, allowing us to be their production company and provide the audio and video of their football games. It made the season much easier and a much bigger success by us working together and collaborating rather than us both doing our own things. And finally, we want to thank the sponsors because without them, the season and the broadcast just would not be possible. My Team Media has only been doing CG football games for the last 2 years, so relatively new company in the Canisteo-Greenwood area. And there's not a lot of digital media broadcasting companies in the southern tier. So when we called these people up, some of them had never even heard of us, but they wanted to sponsor the games. They wanted to make sure that this team, especially the seniors, got the coverage, got the exposure that they deserved, and they signed up and made it possible so we could broadcast the games. When we did the sectional semifinal game, we had to pay $150 in rights fees to be able to broadcast that game. In past years, we would have been able to pay $300 to Section 5 to be able to do video as well. But this year, Section 5 partnered up with Varsity Media and Spectrum to give them the exclusive video streaming rights for Section 5 sectional football games. So for the sectional game, we only had audio. Varsity Media and Section 5 asked us if we would like to provide our audio to their video stream. However, because our commercials would not be going over the Varsity Media Spectrum video feed, it would just be our in-game call. That would not be fair to our sponsors because our sponsors would only be playing on our audio feed on our social media platforms and not going over the Varsity Media Spectrum video feed. So most people, if we were going to be on Varsity Media and Spectrum, could listen and watch to their product. We did the audio on our platform so people could listen to our audio on our platforms while watching the Varsity Media and Spectrum video feed. And with us on the other side of a pandemic, a lot of businesses don't have a lot of money to spend in marketing or advertising. And Tanner, these great local businesses really did step up and showed their support for the players and the school district as well, and really just want to make sure that they were able to help bring these games to the community. And, who knows, when these young men become business owners in the area and there's a broadcast company that's broadcasting Canisteo-Greenwood Redskins football games. Maybe they have a relative on the team. Maybe they don't. But if there's a media company that is trying to broadcast the CG football games or any CG athletic event, maybe these young men say, you know what? There was local businesses that stepped up when I was a player that allowed the games to be broadcast so my friends and family locally and across the country and around the world were able to watch the games. I want to do the same thing and provide that to these student athletes as well. That would be a great full circle. So, Tanner, really, it is all about the sponsors, and we thank them.
Certainly, and that's where the first thanks should go from everyone, including us, our listeners, don't thank us for doing the games. Thank the sponsors. They're the reason that we were able to do it. And even in sectionals, we had some people step up just to make sectionals happen. You had the CG Athletic Booster Club, the York Agency, and then, of course, our season-long sponsors. We got to thank them as well. The Hartman Agency, the Rexville Country Store, Maple City Physical Therapy, Colebrook Auto, Steuben Council on Addiction, and the Steuben County Sheriff's Department stepped up late in the year. So, we're thankful to everyone that put their faith in us and, saw something in us that, they'd like to sponsor. And without them, we couldn't have done it. So, of course, first and foremost, many thanks are in order for our community-oriented sponsors. If you're ever out and about and you happen to stop into one of them locations, don't be shy to let them know that you're thankful for putting their faith in us and allowing us to do these games this year.
All right, that does it. You can catch My Team Media on all the social platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Please, SFL, subscribe, follow, and like. We'll be out and about this spring, in Section 5, maybe Section 4, and in Section 3, doing some sports, some sectionals for the NFHS network, as we have in the past. We'll also be out and about this summer doing some semi-pro games, and then in the fall, we'll be out doing college football. So, very busy schedule coming up, and you can follow us on our social platforms. Tanner, I'm sure sooner than later, we will reconvene at a sports venue someplace in Central or Western New York. Congratulations on graduating from CCC and your acceptance to Buff State. Enjoy the rest of your spring.
Likewise, you as well.
All right, that does it. This has been Redskins Overtime on the My Team Media Network. Be good, everybody. If not, have fun trying. I'll catch you on the flip side. I'm gone.
All of us love sports, but not all sports are created equal. College sports have big budgets, dedicated alumni networks, and corporate sponsorships. Professional sports have even deeper pockets, millionaire owners, lucrative TV and radio deals, and merchandise sales. High school sports have you. Everyone agrees high school sports give us plenty of reasons to cheer. And now's a great time for us to give back. Supporting your hometown high school won't cost you much, but it will go a long way to ensuring the games we love the most are here to stay. High school sports. They're good for our kids, good for our community, and best of all, they're good for you.
This message presented by the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.